This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 295 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to be talking about how to use Pinterest for bloggers in 2022 with Carly Campbell. This was such a great conversation because, as many of you know, I have a tendency that when people ask me questions about Pinterest, I kind of stand back a little bit because I feel like a dinosaur of how Pinterest used to work. Well, Carly and I are walking you through how it used to work, how it's working now, today, what you can actually benefit from and doing in your strategy for Pinterest. So make sure that you listen into that. Now, if you haven't already taken advantage of my content marketing audit, that is for free. All you have to do is leave a rating and review on your favorite podcasting app. Send me a screenshot at Jenny_Melrose in Instagram, and I am going to do a content marketing audit for free for you. All right, you guys, let's dive in. Hi, Carly. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. I am really excited to be here to talk about Pinterest. Even though Pinterest has treated us, I don't know, maybe less nicely lately than it used to, I still have a passion for the platform.
Yes, I am super excited to kind of talk about it. It has been something that a lot of people have asked me questions about, and it's always something I kind of tiptoe around because I do have my feelings because, of course, I am a dinosaur blogger that started in 2009. So Pinterest worked very differently back then, and I have some feelings about it that I try to keep underneath the surface, but sometimes they come out. So before we really jump into that conversation, though, will you introduce yourself and your business to my listeners?
Sure. Yeah. So I am Carly. I am a full-time stay-at-home mom, full-time blogger. And I started blogging in 2016 when we first got pregnant with our first child. And I knew that going out of the house to work was not something I was interested in. I knew that like right away from the day I got pregnant. So my blog, my main blog is a mom blog. I also have a small niche site that I started in 2020 with the sole intention of driving traffic from Pinterest and experimenting to know what it would be like to drive traffic from Pinterest with a newer website. Because that when we say, oh, we started in 2016 or we're a dinosaur blogger, what people hear is, okay, well, they started in a different era. What they're doing isn't going to work. And so I do have that small site too. And when I say it's small, I don't mean, it's small because Pinterest won't send it traffic. I mean, it's small because in 2 years, I've only ever put 40 posts on it. So it did have 40,000 pages a month last summer. In the height of it's seasonal. In the height of its season, it had 40,000 pages from Pinterest. So I'm excited to share a lot of what I share about Pinterest right now comes from the experiences I have with that site.
Which I love because I think that, you hear a lot of experts out there talking about, this is how Pinterest works, and they're not actually utilizing it. So that's one of the reasons that I was super excited to have you come on to the podcast and talk about this. So let's start from kind of the beginning. How have bloggers used Pinterest in the past?
Okay, well, if we go really far into the past, if we go pre-2016, when I started, Pinterest was a real-time feed. You just posted your content in real time. It showed it to whoever was on the internet right then, or whoever's on Pinterest right then. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really, really easy to get traffic to anything you posted. It didn't matter the niche. It didn't matter the competition. It didn't even really matter if the user was that interested in looking for that subject when they sat down, because it was going out in real time. And that ended at the end of 2015. And when I started in 2016, people were talking about the Pinterest Armageddon People were leaving blogging left and right because Pinterest wasn't working the way it was working. And so I'm really fortunate to have come into Pinterest at a time where it was very clear that Pinterest was going to change while we use it. After Pinterest Armageddon at the very end of 2015, early 2016, people who hung on and kept going, they've used Pinterest as a search engine to put their content in, to properly SEO it, to use the best practices for getting seen on the platform. And I would say, for those who pushed through and learned how to deal with the changes that occurred, Pinterest was still a really easy source of traffic. We put out the content, we took care of the best practices and the traffic. So that is what we did in the past. Yes. And things have changed again on Pinterest recently.
Yes, I can remember. And then in the beginning, so pre-Armageddon, that if someone with your followers was what mattered. If someone with large following pinned something of yours, you would see an immediate rush of traffic to the point where sites would get kicked down because it was too much traffic and their host wasn't ready for it.
Oh, wow. You imagine.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy times. So when we're looking at it now, is Pinterest still good for bloggers?
Yes, with the caveat that you have a niche that is Pinterest friendly. So is Pinterest still good for absolutely every single blogger? No, I don't think so. And when we talk about what kind of niche is a good niche for Pinterest, it is generally going to be something that is, and it's hard to articulate, but generally something that is tangible content versus intangible content. So tangible content is something that you take action on. Intangible content is something you think about. And I find, and you'll still meet people who will break the rules and get out there with intangible content, particularly if there is a really, really common, deep felt kind of pain point in that intangible content. You can break the mold. I see a lot of those people frustrated that they can't repeat their success. They'll get a pin that will, it'll escape the algorithm because people are interacting with it because it's a deep felt need. It'll bring a ton of traffic. They can't repeat their success. It's frustrating. But content that is actionable, that is tangible, that people are looking for on the platform, that kind of content can still do really well. And again, I'll point to my little niche site that only had 32 posts on it last summer, and it still got 40,000 page views from Pinterest in a month. No, that's not 500,000 page views that we could have got in 2014, but it's more than enough to build a business.
Yes. So your niche site, what topic is it?
Well, I don't actually share that topic explicitly outside of my course, but it is a seasonal hobby site. Okay. So it is really only relevant in the summer, and it is very specifically how to create these things inside of this little hobby. So when we say niche, I'm actually going to go as far as a micro niche. Okay. So if it wasn't so niche, I would actually expect it to be able to get more traffic from Pinterest. Like when we think about a slightly broader, let's use hobby, for example, since it's a hobby site. We think about a slightly broader hobby site like cricket crafts or gardening or, crochet or knitting. Those are like slightly broader hobby sites. There's lots of things you can talk about inside of them. I would expect some of those sites to be able to get towards 100,000 page views a month.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That was my next question for you was what are some examples of the sites that you think are still getting traffic, would be effective, that kind of like tangible that you were talking about. So that's exactly what I was looking for. That's perfect.
Okay. So we can take it a little bit further too, because there's a lot more things that are tangible. Like, I know food, there are people who are in food who would say they have struggles, but there are also people in food who have continued to do really well. Food is another one. ideas for kids' activities, like ideas for camping, like, you're planning something, ideas for a wedding, ideas for a graduation party, ideas for now that travel is picking up again a little bit, I believe we'll see a resuscitation in travel. The depression that we've seen in travel and Pinterest, I still believe it's climate of the world related.
Right. Yes. No, absolutely. So how should bloggers use Pinterest in 2022?
With great patience. So we are absolutely seeing that it can take 6 months or longer for a pin to start to pick up and get out there. It can be a perfect pin. It can be perfectly SEO'd, and it can still take, well, actually, I would go as far as to say 8 months just for Pinterest to put it out there, to check it out, to see if people like it. So this goes for sites that are just starting, but it also goes for well-established sites. If you look at what you have that's bringing traffic from Pinterest now, chances are good that you did not pin it this week or last week or the week before. You probably pinned it 8+ months ago. So with patience, that is number one. With attention to the best practices for 2022. The best practices have changed over time. SEO for Pinterest is still very, very, very important. But kind of what we've talked about so far, as far as kind of content goes, user intent is more important on Pinterest than it has ever been. So I would say with user intent and SEO at the forefront of your mind. And I'm also going to add, lastly, bloggers should use Pinterest cautiously and selfishly. And when I say selfishly, we need to be aware that since Pinterest went public in 2019,
20? No,
20, 19?
Yeah.
Okay.
19, yeah, somewhere around there.
Pinterest's goal is to make profit for Pinterest. Pinterest's goal is it's not actually to gain hundreds of thousands of users every year and send that traffic to your website. And so Pinterest is really pushing idea pins to the point of where, they've been pushing idea pins now for 1.5 years. I still haven't made one because idea pins are for Pinterest. Now, in the past couple months, Pinterest has rolled out this program called it's the Creators Program. They're going to pay you to make idea pins every day. And there's a lot of people talking about the success that they're having with this Creators Program while they're paying us to make pins. Be careful with that. Mm-hmm. This is a rug. I'm confident. You can write this down because you're going to transcribe it and it'll be written down. This is something I said. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong about this. This is a rug that will be pulled out from underneath you in the future and in the not far future.
Right.
This is an unsustainable program for Pinterest, as far as I'm concerned. If you are one of the fortunate few who is American and who has been invited to this I'll get paid for idea pins program, and you are making, $1,200, $1,500 a month right now, that will decrease. Be careful putting too much effort into this program. I need to say that in 2022, bloggers should use Pinterest selfishly with a view to their long-term ROI on the platform for themselves.
Yes. I actually have clients right now making upwards of $4,000 to $5,000 just as the creator program.
Wow. And do you know that what is interesting to me about that is that currently, to my knowledge, and if I'm wrong about this, please correct me, but to my knowledge, Pinterest has budgeted $500,000 a year for this program. Okay. That is not going to go far at $5,000 a person. There are very, 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 very few people who will see that kind of income. And as the program grows, that income will disperse through the thousands and thousands and thousands of bloggers that will be using it. And I believe we'll get to a point where we're making a few $100s a month and you're not. And there's nothing wrong with making a few $100s a month. There is something hugely wrong with making a few $100s a month and not growing your own business.
Agreed.
Just growing Pinterest business, which is scary for me. So I mean, maybe my opinion on this will change in the future, but in a year and a half of idea pins, I have yet to see a reason to encourage people to create.
Yes. And I think the ones that are doing it are repurposing content. So they're using whatever they might be using for either a web story, they're somehow using it for an idea pin, or they're somehow using it for TikTok, or they're using it for a reel. So they're piecing the video or the content somehow together to make it work so that it's not solely content just for the platform, which I feel like is what we're seeing now. A lot of platforms, that's what they want. They don't necessarily are looking for that traffic coming back to the sites the way that as business owners, we ideally want to see.
Well, absolutely. And over time, a large portion of the traffic that we have already lost on Pinterest over the past year and a half, I believe can be attributed directly to our idea pins. Once Pinterest has enough content in idea pins, why are they encouraging us to create them? Why are they paying us to create them? Because it wasn't working for them just to try to get us to create them without paying us. So once Pinterest has enough idea pins, our regular pins will be suppressed. Pinterest, as we know it, will be dead. So I just really, really want people to approach idea pins with caution. I really am desperately worried about that.
Yes. No, and I agree with you. What I am seeing from the sponsored aspect of it, because of course that's what I am always trying to dig into, is that my thought is that they're building up the idea pins to be able to show brands, look, you can create an idea pin about your brand. So the way that it'll still possibly be beneficial to bloggers are now more brands are going to start paying for more idea pins. And because of that, it'll be related to their followers, impressions, something to be able to base it. Whereas like in the past, when we did sponsorships, Pinterest wasn't really something that you could put a price on as putting out a pin. It was just something that we did because it drove traffic, which was ideally what the brand was after. But now they're just looking for the awareness, sort of like they've done with Reels. They're not looking for that traffic going to the site. They're looking for that quick awareness that they can get out there. And I think that could potentially be a possibility that brands may try to go in that direction and be willing to pay more bloggers for that aspect of it.
Oh, I absolutely see what you're saying. And I agree that, I never ever approach anything from the sponsored point of view because I don't really do much. I did 2 sponsored posts all of last year. So, I mean, that's a really good perspective. Absolutely. There will be value in it there. And that kind of, it almost makes me feel like there will be hope after idea pins because, like I said, I don't think we're going to be able to rely on Pinterest to pay us for idea pins into the future. But yeah, maybe we will be able to get brands to pay us for idea pins in the future. Maybe that will be how we will monetize our Pinterest accounts in the future when, because we are all going to have these old dinosaur accounts where if idea pins have taken over, we aren't able to use them for money, but maybe brands will give us money for them. And then, then I'll jump on the idea pin trucks and I'll take a ride. So.
Right. But for the aspect of what we're talking about, I think a lot of bloggers, we have this traditional look at Pinterest. And this only thought process for me for the sponsorship only arose because I'm hearing clients that I work with say a brand is paying me $1,000 to create an idea pin. Oh, and where in the past they didn't pay for pins. That wasn't really something that they necessarily would have done. But I think that this conversation is so important because as bloggers, we look at Pinterest to drive traffic, to drive the traffic to our website. And is the time that I'm putting into it, I'm with you. Idea pins, it's not driving traffic to my site. My people aren't looking at them. It's not doing anything for me as far as building awareness. Why would I spend the time? There's no ROI for me as a business owner. So I think it's an important conversation that we have to have and just being careful in where we're spending our time and making sure that there is ROI. It's our eyes, not someone else's. So we're building our own businesses, not other people's.
Yeah, ideally, that's what we want is something that the bottom is not going to fall out of when Pinterest or Google or Facebook throws a switch and changes, the world as we know it.
Absolutely. So one of the questions that I want to ask is, what is the most important statistic on Pinterest? Impressions or followers? This is always a question that I start to get asked when they're trying to like say, oh, I can charge this for that, or whatever it might be when it comes to Pinterest. What is your take?
Well, the most important statistic on Pinterest, in my opinion, is not impressions or followers, as clicks to our website.
Right.
Now, because, we're talking about building a business and doing what we have to do for our own business. If I had to choose between impressions and followers, I would say impressions, but impressions in and of themselves don't make money. This is where where idea pins join the conversation, because if we're not familiar with Pinterest, idea pins gain impressions. They can help gain followers. What they can't do is create clicks to your website. So I guess maybe I should have explained that earlier in the conversation when we started to talk about idea pins. But the idea pins don't have a link to your website, so you can't click to visit your website, and you can't directly convert that reader without the reader taking extraordinary excess action, like looking at where your URL is, going to a browser and typing it in, and then looking for the same content on your website. But to be honest, the average user is not going to do that. So it doesn't matter if you get 150,000 impressions on a pin and nobody clicks through, you haven't benefited. We've also we can see very clearly that followers don't matter, because, back in 2015, when Pinterest was rolling out those pins in real time, followers mattered a lot because they were rolling it out in real time to your followers. They are not doing that anymore. Just because someone follows you does not mean that pin is going out to them. So I have an account with 60,000 followers, and I have an account with 4,000 followers. And depending on the season or the content or the time of day or whatever, whatever pleases Pinterest at the time, I have pins on the account with 4,000 followers that can get more impressions than I can get on the account with 60,000 followers.
Right. Yes. And I think that's so important to take note of, because instead of feeling like, oh, I got to grow, just really examining how you're going to use it, best practices, something that you've definitely stressed multiple times about SEO and making sure that you're using it to actually be a search engine. And I think also one of the things that you teach is you have the pin template. Can you tell us a little bit about the pin template starter kit that you actually offer? Because I think that that's an important piece of this. A lot of people get scared off by Pinterest now because their pins don't stand out. They don't know how to make them look so that they're actually there.
Yeah, so I think the pin template starter kit offers two really important benefits. One is that with the changes that we've seen over the past 6 or 7 years, I would never encourage anybody to be spending an hour a day on Pinterest anymore. In 2016, 2017, 2018, I would have told you have to be spending 45 minutes to an hour a day on Pinterest. That's how important, it is to get established on Pinterest and how much time it takes me to utilize Pinterest. I don't want anybody spending more than 15 minutes a day on Pinterest anymore. So pin templates will reduce your pin creation time to minutes, so we can get those pins created, get them on Pinterest, and get out of Pinterest and work on other things on our business. As well as the designs that I've provided for you will save you from making really common mistakes. Because you're right, if your pin is just kind of fading into the background, if it's not created in a way that makes people see it, then when it does get out there in the feed, it's competing with the other pins. You got to catch somebody's attention in 1 second. You scroll in Pinterest, you need to get their attention. So pin templates help you avoid a lot of the really common mistakes. We discuss it. There's a PDF, the perfect pin design training kind of that comes with the starter kit. We discuss the biggest mistakes and the biggest things that you want to do with your pins. And so that's all inside the starter kit. There's templates for you to use, and there is best practices and examples that will help you understand what our goal is when it comes to pin design as far as visibility.
Excellent. So we're going to link to that in the show notes for those that are listening. You can always hop over to that, or you can always just send me a DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose, and I can send you the direct link to be able to grab that pin template starter kit so you can save the time and stand out at the same time. Carly, of course, where are the best places to connect with you? Do you have a free Facebook group where bloggers can get lots of information?
I do have a free Facebook group for bloggers can get lots of information. It is called Blogging Like We Mean It. And it is a closed public group. So you do need to read the rules and grab the secret password after you've read the rules to join. But there is, I think we're up to 16,000 members now, and it is extremely active. And there's so much good information in there. It's bloggers of all levels, and everybody is really generous with their knowledge. There's always people willing to jump in and answer your questions. And you can also find, boatloads of information by searching the past questions. Yes. I really love the group. It's been a wealth of information for me in my business.
Yes, it's one of my favorite groups. It's the one that I always tell people, go to this group. You have a question, go to this group, because it has a ton of, just a wealth of information in there. And is there anywhere else that you kind of used that people have questions, want to know more about your course? Where else should they get in contact with you?
Anybody can always email me at carly@mommyonpurpose.com. I've always meant to make use of Instagram, but I've never really I've embraced it the way that I should. So that I'm really thinking that's got to be the only place. Email and Facebook. Yep. That's about it.
Perfect. That works for sure. Well, Carly, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with my audience and answer all my crazy questions. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, this is so much fun. I love talking about Pinterest, and I just really appreciate you for having me here. Thank you.
Of course. All right. Well, there you have it. I hope that you gained a ton of information from our discussion about Pinterest, what it can look like for the future, and even got you excited potentially about creating Pinterest idea pins as part of your sponsorship packages. So as always, I appreciate you guys so much for listening and get in. Make sure if you haven't already taken advantage of that content marketing audit that you do so. Just leave me a rating and review on your favorite podcasting app. Send me a screenshot at Jenny_Melrose to my Instagram, and I will do a content marketing audit for free. All right, you guys, until next time, I will see you all then.